Hey guys, it's Evan. Today is Saturday, August 15th. It's 3:41 p.m. exactly. I have made 3-minute snippets for LinkedIn, but I figured I'll just make my YouTube and upload the link to my LinkedIn. And if people want to tune into my videos that are over 3 minutes, they can be guided to my YouTube channel that's just filled with like random spiels and daily vlogs. I think it's important for me to document daily my life. I really should be focused on my three classes right now. I'm holding back a burp. This month I've been not as busy with VA appointments, but still steadily pretty busy with VA appointments. I think that I have managed to really just have like my mood in a place that's so much past, like surpassing my physical trauma, pain. A lot of the pain has been reduced, not entirely, but I have some form of pain relief to where I think that my personality and my person, my being is like back. I feel for so long I was just like constantly mentally in a place of just like this gloom, not depressed. I mean, when I'm surviving daily, I don't think depression is really priority or even there. I was battling daily to live. At one point, I just constantly visualized me laying on my left side. I couldn't use my right arm at all at the shelter, and even now, so many years later, I sleep in a bed and I have to tell myself that I'm safe quite often. If I'm here in this safe space or if I'm out in public, things sometimes resurface and I have to tell myself I'm safe. At times at night, I have trouble breathing. I still don't know why that is. Yesterday, I got a phone call from a Dr. Kumar who said that I do not have sleep apnea, but the providers that put in for the sleep consult, the sleep lab, they're going to reach out to me so that I can get a deeper understanding of my sleep lab results and to see if a CPAP is needed. I can only speculate that my neck problems, my neck issues, my spinal issues, neurological, who knows why I have issues breathing. I don't I don't think it has anything to do with like anxiety, although at times I do wake up and I still think I'm at the shelter and I'm not. Like, even when I lay over on my right side, at times I still think I'm going to see my roommate in front of me and he's not there. So it's not easy. It gets easier as time goes on. I wake up, I look over to now things or items or objects or things that I would say like help me feel good. Like, I look at a picture on the wall that makes me feel good, or a book that makes me feel like I can remember things. I'll write post-its that I'm safe, and so that those are like things that I have to do so that I can get my life steadily organized. And I hope, I mean, I can only hope. I've made so much progress already. I really want to maintain this momentum. So what I'm saying in so many words is I feel that finally I'll never know the man that I was before my trauma, but I can really feel a a form of like my identity resurfacing as far as like really enjoying life and things. I would go to church or a farmer's market, events, be around like the greatest positive environment. Maybe not the safest, but you know, I would go to these events on the weekends. Earlier, I was thinking about a farmer's market that I would go to when I lived more inner city, and I just didn't feel. I felt really numb. Like I would be in the crowd, and there would be so much to be happy about, things to buy, foods to try, and I really had no sense of like being fulfilled or enjoying anything. And I really did my best to get through those days, and I don't have any regrets. I did my best throughout that time, and even now I'm really just doing my best. I feel progress. I have a lot of things to be proud of myself for. I still have like this just desire to. I really do just want to grab all those papers and just throw them away. But then I feel like, spiritually, yes, of course, I know that God is in control and God wins every night, every day, all day. But I just feel like there's, if I just throw everything away, it's almost like there's absolutely no accountability. And I feel like it's doable. Like for me to get organized and make time for school and then take breaks and go through the papers and make reports, file reports. Not only does it like give me something to do, but I feel like it makes me feel like somewhat normal, and I don't. Like if I were to just throw everything away, would I have less stress? Most likely. But also, what do I have to do if I just throw everything away and pretend like nothing's happening in life, nothing's ever happened to me? You know, I don't really see any good coming from that at all. And the way I play things out in my mind is like, if I do or if I don't, the the choice ultimately is mine. You know, everyone else, people could care less about what I'm going through to even care to help. That's pretty evident to me. And I just really hope that when I do get around in my space to get to those reports, that some form of difference in the world is, at least in my world, it makes an impact. That's all I can hope for and wish for. I really just I don't even know. Like I feel like if those papers weren't piled up, which is awful, it's an awful reality. But you know, what other form of being a normal human being do I have? People go through the. I've been going through this since 2022, but it's like I know that I'm not the only person in the country that in some way doesn't. Other people go through it in different ways. It could be, I don't know, other situations. And if I just throw everything away, I don't have that sense of normalcy. Is it normal? No, not by any means. Not if you look through the papers that I have. But I don't know. It's kind of like, I guess I'm Jedi mind tricking myself, thinking that in some way I'm like everyone else normal, which I know is not true. I know that realistically, no one should be going through what I'm going through at all. But it gives me this sense of like, I I don't know, kind of like just norm, you know. And like, I guess, everybody around me has work, jobs, and if I throw that away, what do I have? Nothing. I have the yard in my school, and that's cool. I'm not saying it's not, but at the same time, like, I can I have so often been told, like, don't worry, Mr. Mendez, we're taking care of everything. Kind of like, at times, like, not often, but like, you don't have to do anything. And at the same time, is like, I'm not sitting here saying that that's horrible, that's awful. No, I'm beyond blessed to have been talked to, or even get the help that I have, or the support that I have, of course. Like yesterday, I this issue resurfaced with the VA and the bill, and I finally was able to, for once in all these years, just get the response of like, you don't have to worry about that, Mr. Mendez, it's all taken care of, which is perfect. It's fine because there was follow through and it was handled. But I'm talking about, like, you know, being told, don't worry, Mr. Mendez, we're handling everything. And it's that trauma that I have with the VA, like, not even just the VA, but also corporate trauma of like having that false assurance that like everything's being taken care of and handled, and there is no need for me to intervene, and come to find out, no one's working on anything. They're just twiddling their thumbs or picking their nose or scratching their booties. And that's what's happened to me. Like, my workers' compensation carrier, that lady was a joke. And at the end of the day, I was the one who, my life, my entire life, for a man that just wanted to be underneath a hood and be left alone, my life is everything but that now. You know, I used to love just being. Today, I was leaned over a sink, grooming my face. I'm not saying that I never did that before. I'm just saying that was never really like my go to fire up a gear. My go to was like, I would rather be leaning over an open bay, an open hood, and, you know, firing up an engine than my life now. My life is, it's been entirely torn apart. I've been torn apart, and I have been beyond blessed to still have like a sense of myself, in the sense that I can I can really explain my life. I can really explain to myself, you know, everything in my life, and explain to others what I've gone through. Most people, they lose their voice entirely, or they're silenced. I'm not saying that at one point in this process I wasn't petrified or scared or like tormented daily by losers and people that told me there is no way through this. Of course, I see how beyond blessed that I am, and I'm really thankful in a spiritual way. That's why I think it's really important for me to just make these videos. It helps me get everything off my chest, speak my mind, and it really does help me see like how I've grown and how far I've come, what I've survived. It doesn't, I mean, I make these videos for myself, and I feel like in some way it's impactful. I mean, a video like this, like these videos that I post, these videos, I don't know how far they reach out. How far these videos reach, what demographic. I can sit here and go based off the YouTube research and analytics. Most people, from what I've seen on my YouTube analytics, most people have typed my name in over and over and over and over again. And that's kind of like the same pattern I'm seeing on LinkedIn. Who these people are, I have no idea who these people are that type my name in, but thanks for watching or tuning in. I hope that at this point, I not only I have been saying, like, I hope I'm not just making a positive impact, but I hope that at this point I am inspiring other people, that and showing them and displaying in some way that they can very easily utilize whatever it is that they have at their disposal to be a positive influence for themselves and for others. I think that right now is the greatest time to do that. Yesterday, I reached over for something as I was, and I thought about a few years back recently when everyone was protesting Donald Trump and Elon. And I really could not, I think it was just looking at a book that I recently collected on my top shelf. I thought to myself, like, I, it's easier for me to believe, like, I just found this book and put it on my top shelf, which is true fact. It's easier for me to, like, really absorb that reality than it is to absorb, to me, some components of my life. I think for me, I consider these things like very minimal and super small. And for other people in the world, it's just the magnitude of these circumstances or situation are just so grand and immense. And I'm still really working on comprehending for myself not how to deal with that reality, but like not to be so lax. I do understand that this is my life and my reality, and that is why, to me, these situations are very minimal, and to like the majority, the magnitude is just so grand. I do get that. I get that better than anyone. I have had to learn for myself to understand why that is. And I think that it's truly a blessing that I am at this point, not with my mental health, but with my life. I think that that's super important for me because of what I've gone through, to have not that ability but that capability, because I feel like for so many that that like that freedom and that right is is really almost in every single interaction or circumstance. It's always really just barricaded for so many, in the sense that, like, you have to achieve and get through so much in life so that you have this rite of passage, this respect or reputation, right? And I'm thinking about, like, when Zelensky came around and Donald Trump is just bullying him, telling him that he doesn't have those cards in his hands. Like he doesn't have that type of power control, which is not true. That is somebody who is very just a bad person. He's just horrible. You know, that is trying to manipulate the minds of somebody others to make them feel less than. And I have been beyond blessed in the sense that like I have had the support of they're not the greatest people, the wealthiest people, but they are people, multiple churches that have supported me, fed me, clothed me, given me a place to eat, sleep, stay throughout this process. That is why like I know that God's people have really helped me comprehend spiritually these things, what I'm describing. And I'm not saying that that's not important at all. I'm not trying to minimize that at all. I'm just really trying to stay focused on the fact that I am now at the point where like I have to make that discernment for myself that will make that will really differentiate the man that I am, not my character, because I think that I can really toot my horn a bit here and use my ego in saying that, I know for a fact who I am. And I refuse, and have refused for so long, to have the same power as specific people to really tap into these powers of exercising my agency, of knowing that this narrative that, I have to live a certain life, or walk a certain way or be a certain way to achieve certain things is false. And I I really have I don't want to say unwillingly, but I have always had it in my character not to not to conform. And it's not about conforming. I think when for me it's not about admitting the admission of like I've never conformed and for that I should be respected. No, I feel that I should be respected because if people really took the time to understand my story and my truth, that they would clearly see that at some point at some point within my own awareness of not just the events that led to me being in a wheelchair or losing my life, I chose to utilize my awareness, if you want to say this cognitive aspect of my identity, but I chose to utilize my awareness of my whole life and my entire being so that I can make a way for me in a world where, for a man like me, there truly is not a way structured. And that type of innovative mind that does not prey on those that lack inspiration or cannot very easily tap into inspiration or their own awareness that it is super easy to just be inspired by life. And more importantly, be inspired with simply who they are and being comfortable with who they are. All that inspiration can just smoothly transpire instead of bringing to the attention of so many so that they have to use all of their energy to focus their attention onto me and conform to my ideologies, how I view the world, and my realities. I choose to lead my life in such a way and share my experiences in such a way where people can just let their guards down and understand that they are already equipped in so many ways that they can't even imagine to achieve what it is that they want to create, that they want, that they need, that they desire, that they want to share in this life, or leave as a legacy, or whatever it may be. And that it doesn't take much energy. It does not take much exertion. I've always had the mindset of, why do I have to overexert myself when factually the reality of my life and the truths of my life are so open? I have done things in my life and in this world that most of the greatest dictators in all of history have never done. I have just handed over all of my information to banks, to people, because I come from a place of truth. Like, I have very authentically always throughout this entire process just wanted help. And initially, when I went directly to OSHA and reported directly to OSHA, now analyzing that situation, I am just like, wow. Like, I'm just like, my mind goes to like, wow, in all caps. Like, I, 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 I can just like visualize all caps in my mind the text wow without knowing verbatim what is in that initial OSHA report for my workplace injury. Because now, and I would imagine, like, if I were to just verbatim read everything that that young man wrote in that report, I, I don't know. That's like remarkable. Like, for that time frame, having said what I said and not thinking much of it, you know, and now I'm just like, kind of just like, this guy was lethal. Like, this young man was really just way in like so highly advanced in a time where, like, I mean, I don't even have the words for it, really. Like, even now with what I see politically and in TV and in the news, it does not compare to the mind that that young man had. Like, if I were to bring that report to modern day, you would see how modern day systems are still far behind that young man. And I don't say this lightly, like, at all. And so, like, I didn't, I mean, I don't know, because I don't really remember my train of thinking. I wish that I wished for many, many days after all this trauma that I could just remember. And even now, I constantly like ask, like, what were you thinking? Like, what was on your mind? What did you discover? What did you find? What did you experience? I don't know. Can I kind of configure somewhat of an idea of what was going through my mind at the time? Yes. I have said maybe over a bajillion times mentally that I wish I would have left like better breadcrumbs for myself. So I don't know, but and in a way maybe I did. Like, in a way, a lot maybe was not worth really retaining. I don't know, but either way, God won that battle for me because it's something that I deal with round the clock to the point where I just don't care anymore. Like today, if I say it's Friday, I'm like it's Friday. Often I wake up constantly thinking it's Friday for whatever reason. I don't even remember the day of my accident, but I just I thank God that I'm still alive. I know that it's a miracle that I'm still alive. I see these videos where people die from less. Like, I'm not saying that they didn't go through it because I watched these YouTube videos. I don't know. I guess it can be called exposure therapy. I just thought to myself, I wonder, like, what it looked like, my accident. And so I watched, obviously, didn't watch videos of my accident, but I watched videos on YouTube similar to my accident, and tons of them. And there were people, obviously, it was graphic and awful what they've gone through, but I saw some videos where vehicles just grazed these people at less of a rate than the impact that I took, and they did not survive at all. And I know that God had me in His hands that day, and that God is not done with me. I say that my pain is a constant reminder that God's not letting me go. And, you know, I have this theology, if you want to call it that, my human emotions and sensations and desires are perfect. You know, God designed me in this way so that I had every need to come to Him with all these worldly sensations. If I didn't have these worldly or just these emotions and this pain, then I'd have no reason to come to Him for. You know, there'd be nothing to talk to Him about, or really be thankful and grateful to Him for anything. If I was just a robot or a piece of hardware. So, with all that being said, I know that my strength is way my strength surpasses my circumstance, the situations I am faced with daily, what I deal with in this world. I, at times, have felt like, why is it that in my life it feels like it's just every single situation with me? You know, I just can't be, my sister tells me, like, why can't you just be normal? Like, you know, and I ask myself that all the time. Like, I have begged and prayed to God to make me dumber than a rock. Like, please just make me as dumb as a rock. You know, I've seen grown men just lay around, waste their lives away. And at times I beg God, like, why can't I just be like one of these men that just lays down? I lived in these apartments, and I walked around with my walker one time around the building, and I just looked. I mean, I wasn't like being a peeper, like peeping Tom or anything like that, but the blinds were open, the lights were on, and I saw this man just laid out on his back, just tossed out, laid out. Didn't have a care in the world and was just on his phone. And I was just thinking to God, like, why couldn't you just make me that way? Why couldn't you just build me to have the mind of somebody that just could just rot and waste away on their phone, or just like lay down without a care in the world? I wish that I could be that way, but for whatever reason, God did not design me in that manner. He designed me to absorb everything. You know, life. In such a way where that's how my brain is, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Have I been in situations and been outnumbered by stupid people? I say all the time, like, I cannot fix stupid. Have I been outnumbered by dumb individuals, individuals who have tried to end my life? It's scary. Like, it's scary how much envy and animosity can be exerted on a man like me. And that's really where it comes into full focus for me, that people, a lot of people, I would say a majority of people, cannot accept that a man like me, a man like Victor Gomez, a man like this guy that just died by ice, like, I think that, I there's so many words for a man like me. And I feel that I'm not saying like I represent one tribe or one. I feel like I'm a human at the end of the day. I do not ask for much other than to be treated like a human being. I mean, being treated like a human being even entails being treated like and discarded like human waste. Like, I have been treated worse than that, sadly. I have been exposed to ecosystems of rotten people that think they have a right to determine when and where it is my time to exist. And I am the man that understands existence, time, space, dimension. I can calculate velocity, speed, time, resistance, even formulas. So for me, I have never taken it upon myself to sit here and tell someone what their life should look like, what their reality is, their space, how to describe their space or speak for them, because I know better. I may not know these things in an emotional way. Actually, I can admit that 100% I don't, and I would never even try to explain somebody's emotional inclination to any form of action or behavior. I don't care to explain my own actions or emotions with words. That is like absolutely last on my list. When people show me that dumb color spin wheel, like they want to play, what is that, Twister with my emotions, I don't care. I don't care. Like, I would rather show me a degree wheel so I can build an engine from scratch with my own two hands or a paperclip. I don't care. I don't care if I'm angry. I don't care if I'm ashamed, embarrassed. I don't care if I lost my chicken nuggets. I don't care. I don't care if I'm impatient. I don't care if I'm misunderstood. Welcome to my world. I was a little kid and I was born in 1990. Welcome to my generation. We're all misunderstood. I still don't know why they took away blue sunblock or different colored french fries. I think that those were the best things in the world. I think that Flubber should be live streamed on every single network platform, on Paramount, Hulu, Peacock, Tubi, Netflix. I don't understand why Flubber's not on. I don't understand why the Page Master's not on every, like, why people have to pay for these things, I have no idea. Like, so as far as being triggered or misunderstood, I mean, that's the norm for any 90s kid right now. We have a guy that's an idiot controlling our White House and can't comprehend the fact that if you can't be a good sport, you should not play, especially politics. If you can't be a good sport in any form of, like, game, or like, politics to most people is actually a sport as well. Most people don't. never considered my professional sport. Driving is a sport. NASCAR is performance sport. Formula One is a sport. These are sports. Politics to some is a sport. If you can't be a good sport, if you can't be a good loser, then don't play at all. And this guy does not know how to be a good sport. He's nuts, and he can't comprehend anything past his own wallet, if even that. And it's just weird and strange, like the reality of life that Salma Hayek, across all her social media platforms, has more followers than the President of the United States. Like, this woman has more power, strength, and control than him. And he should admit that in some way, shape, or form. He won't. But preying on the minds of people and destruction, causing destruction for no reason just because, my grandma says that nobody leaves this world without paying their debts. And I feel like I can make a choice. I can make a choice to be a person who perpetuates and profits off other people's circumstances like this man does, and other men like him, and other people like him. Or I can choose to, I don't want to say be the countermeasure to that, but I can choose to really solve that destruction. Am I going to save the world? No, I can't save the world. Maybe I can. And the reality is, as much as 90s kids and my generations and the generations underneath me deal with all these negative instances in life, the reality is that some things like this, and by this I mean this global ring of extortion, this global ring of corruption, this global ring of human trafficking, of international war crimes and international human rights violations. One person, and not an AI, but one person like me, one teenager, one child, has the capacity present day, without the use of technology, to have discernment that these things are right and wrong. And and that is what is so amazing about this day, is that that is the truth. And like, if you went back to the 1980s, 1970s, forget about the 50s, but if you were to sit here and say you don't need to have any form of physical, you know, intimate interactions to keep it G-rated to spread diseases, that would not be very well understood in these decades. And obviously, we know real, live, modern day time. Most educated people know that there are preventatives, there's prevention, and that, social distancing, sharing statuses with each other, safely dating and interacting on socials and in real life interactions, like person interactions. So those worldly issues are understood, and when adults, young adults, or graduates have the capacity or a way to comprehend these issues, to create and innovate solutions for these issues, it's super easy. And I think, like, what cooler time to live in than now, when that is the reality of life? That even kids, children, can be innovative and build their own robots and build their own cars, you know, but yet here we have an idiot trying to control people innovating. One person can innovate solutions to so many issues. I believe that, and this is me going off on a rant, but I truly believe, I'm not saying me, but I do truly believe that we are in a time where, and I do the more that my life goes on, and the more that I see in the news of these researchers, scientists, and diseases, and all these things that are happening in the world. I washed lettuce for like 10 minutes today, and usually I'm the guy that goes out there and just picks something and eats it. Trust me. So I truly do believe that in modern day time, one individual has the capacity to innovate solutions for so many different problems. I believe that this old cookie cutter structure of like mommy daddy want to raise you so that you can go to college and be one doctor, one thing. You're either a doctor, a therapist, a lawyer, you are like XYZ, this, that, you're these things, an artist, musician. I truly believe that those days are super past us. I do believe that now and in the future, people will be able to tap into every single one of their skills and not segregate them into separate disciplines, but like me, like I if I were to sit down and just be left alone with art tools for a day, I could probably some way, shape, or form make a texturized like semi like marble, and it probably look simulated marble, and it probably look better than any imported marble from overseas. If you left me alone with a can of Mod Podge and some newspaper, but I just don't get to that point in my day. And like, I don't know, if you put some musical instruments, I could probably do all kinds of sort of stuff with musical instruments. Even without musical instruments, you leave me alone with a couple little things. I have highlighters, pens, pencils, a remote control, and I drop a beat for you, make a whole song. I mean, I can do so many things, and I truly do believe that in this time, and with all of this corruption with colleges, colleges are no different than cults. That's really true. And this whole corruption doesn't have any limits. It can be in colleges, hospitals, orphanages, churches. It doesn't have the devil doesn't discriminate. He's everywhere. He takes whatever he can get his hands on. So I feel that with all these systems that constantly fail us, you know, at why do people modern day, like, I feel like we're just backtracking and backtracking and backtracking, keeping all of these forms of records and structures and things like that, like having to do this phony stuff about documenting. When has anybody in American history ever had some form of, like, I don't know, just huge report just to, like, just huge report of themselves just to go vote? That's nonsense. Like, imagine in 19 whatever 19 early 1900s, people having to have this huge file on themselves, having all these forms of identification just to vote. That's unreal. Like, I want to see Donald Trump's voter ballot from his grandpa, his grandma, and all. It's just baloney. It's retarded. It's dumb. Obviously there are people that they lose their right to vote. There are laws and legal frameworks for people that absolutely lose their criminals. These are people that have committed crimes beyond whatever, or for whatever reason, they are not allowed to vote. But that's a whole other thing. But what I'm saying is, I, those things, like those systems, are faulty. So why bring back, like, why bring add problems to try to solve a problem that shouldn't be a problem in the first place? Like, the only reason there's these problems about identification is because one guy can't admit that he lost. He's a sore loser. So now he's trying to say, well, everybody in America doesn't have documentation, and that's why they couldn't appropriately, whatever, count that I lost. I actually won. No, you lost. And I feel that real lifetime, there are intellectual people, there are people, they may not outnumber dumb people, but there are cultures and people that have the comprehension and understanding that a lot of these systems fail us. But one, I know that God will never fail me, but two, I've learned that God's people will always find a way through. And I've also seen people that they have no belief in a God or God, and that's fine. But I do really see a a turn in the current as far as society and humans go. I do see humans that have had enough of what's happening in the world and in this country, and I see humans that would rather unplug themselves from these structures and these systems to live, to survive. Like, why constantly? I'm not saying you shouldn't have a job, you shouldn't go to school, but why constantly expose yourself, you know, to these systems that lead you back to square one? I am the first person to say, like, I ultimately, do I have a grand idea of the young man that I was, and everything that I was thinking of, like what I saw, what I did, what I experienced that led me to this point? No. But I, how do I place this? I would, I wouldn't want my life to be any other way. But at the end of it, I was in a place, I was very, very healthy and strong. Was my health like phenomenal? No. I mean, I had military injuries, but I was very healthy and strong. I, present day, ended up in the same place that I was initially before my workplace injury. I I don't think I aged. Yes, I've aged a lot. I don't like it. I don't. Who likes aging? Maybe some people do. I don't. People say I don't age at all. I know my body, so I know I age. But people look at me and they say that I look super young. Whatever. Not the point. But I can say, like, I guess point blank, black and white is, you know, people always say, the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again. Everyone in America has, since this administration has taken over again, has been living a form of insanity every single day around the clock. Going to college, student loans, not receiving health care. Women are dying. Women are dying because of so many reasons. They're not getting help, but women are dying because I feel that women, and I'm not trying to mansplain this, but I feel that for me as a man of science, I honestly do believe that there is so much about genetics that is still left, like, in just this mass abyss of what we can, when we think we have this full comprehension, we don't. There's still so much left in the world for us to discover. And I think that women, when they are pregnant, go through so much. Their bodies transform in such a way. Like, for me, it's super alien. I don't know, but it's weird. Okay, I'm horrible, but I think that their bodies transform in such a way that I couldn't even. I get needles and I cry, so I don't even know what that would even be like. But there are so many parts of their autonomy and their anatomy that goes through all of these changes after. If it could be an initial pregnancy, like it could be a pseudo pregnancy, it could be, what else, like a miscarriage, and it could be a full term pregnancy, and the interim between that first pregnancy to the next, that women just do not receive the help that they need. And I I just feel for them. I really do feel for these women. And there are so many. This man, the president, is saying that crime has been reduced, and it's such a flat out lie. Like, I honestly see the amount of women being accused of crimes, and this mom, this Lindsay Clancy thing, and there are other recent women that, you know, have been in the news lately for abusing their children, the crimes. And when this man is dismantling women's rights and their health care, freaking police and doctors are being put in jail. Doctors are being put in jail for helping women. There, I have done a lot of, like, sometimes I'll chime in, like, to NIH and see what type of research and articles and stuff like that. There's so much genetically that is not known about the fetus that's just unreal. And it's not just the fetus, but there is still so much unknown about pregnancy. And there are so many books. There was one book I once read, and it discussed husbandry, and how this man who wrote the book, he understood husbandry from a child. Like, that's how he was raised, husbandry for the cattle in the farm, and that's how he became so skilled and experienced with babies. Believe it or not. Anyways, but he wrote this book, and it's a man who wrote this book because he had all this experience as a young man with husbandry, that he knew how to handle babies. And so that is really the reality of women's healthcare and their pregnancy. Like, a lot of these books are written by men, and man doctors, they don't know what it's like to carry a child's full term. They don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like. Like, I wouldn't know the emotional loss, I and here we have this man who's, like, Roe versus Wade was one of the most historical pieces of law and cases in the legal framework, in the justice system, that this man just trashed. And I will always say that Tupac said it best. Like, we shouldn't tell women when and how. But what I'm saying in so many words is that I have I haven't gone really deep into researching this theory, but I have slightly become aware that there are instances where, and don't hold me to it, but occasions or circumstances when sometimes the woman, her body is not, I don't want to say it's not set up, but it does not, she could lose her life, or bringing the child full term can, how do I say this? I don't want to say cause her risks, but there are risks for whatever her reasons may be, the way her health may be set up. She may have other conditions. One of those may be anemia. They may have what is jaundice or other whatever under the sun. They may have a condition where this pregnancy may lead to weighing out the options of bringing the baby full term could mean they lose their life. And I think that taking that option away from women to make that decision and that choice for their bodies and for themselves and for their families, I think that that's super, super, super wrong. Like, what if Donald Trump ate a salad and the doctor couldn't help him? He choked on a freaking crouton, and the doctor couldn't help him because there's a law that says I can't provide you CPR or mouth to mouth. If I provide you CPR mouth to mouth, I'll end up in jail. Like, that's dumb. That's stupid. And I just pray to God that I turn on the TV Monday morning and this man is Donald J. Trump is either in jail or out of the White House or both. I mean, they say be careful what you wish for or it just might happen. I'm praying for it. I pray to the baby Jesus and to God Himself. God, please get this man out of the White House. Get him out of the White House, put him in jail, or both, please and thank you. Either way, they talk about eternal damnation. I do not think that that is right at all. To control women, violate, that's literally, you're essentially fostering the violation. Like, how can you sit here and say men can't be in women's sports when you can't even be a good sport in the world of politics? Like, I'm gonna keep it G rated, but to me, you're nothing but a B word. You're nothing but a punk. You can't accept the fact that you lost, and people should really wake up to the fact that this man ran a campaign as a joke. And at the time, sadly, younger adults weren't as into politics. And now people are so riled up about, we are dying. I die every single day. It's a miracle that I'm alive. But the American society and Americans are dying daily. American people. I am more American than the President of the United States. I if you go deeper and deeper and deeper into my bloodline, I mean my people been here. My people didn't have to come across oceans to get here. His daddy did and his grandpappy did and his mommy did and his grandmammy did, and mine didn't have to go anywhere. Mine made an entire life here multiple times here in the United States in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And this man, God sees him and God knows him. So I've been on my soapbox for a whole hour. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to eat and I'm finally going to get into my school. But doing these vlogs is good for me. And I've made a whole video about genetics, not entirely focused on genetics, but we are all human. We are all the human species for the most part. And I heard somewhere in this forensic docu that we are nearly 100% all related to each other. So to sit here and to incite violence and promote harmful tactics and events to end another person's life and to detain people because they don't look to spec, all of these jets this guy, cars, jets, you know, they're all different. He gets on different Air Force One helicopters, stuff like that. They're all different. You know, they all have different components, different parts, but aviation and air traffic, I mean, you're up in the air, it's all the same thing. Like, we are all human beings. Do we look different? Maybe do we have different hardware and components? Sure, I have titanium in my spine right now, and I have bolts and screws, and luckily they're not knocked loose. There's probably some knocked loose in my brain, but we're all different, and none of us should be ashamed. I saw the chick, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, that made the Dr. Pepper jingle. She just made a jingle being herself, and it went so far in the world. And that's the beauty of 2026 present day modern technology. And I want to be a presence that uses technology so that so many people can see that they have control to. I was watching this Charles Manson documentary, and I probably shouldn't bring it up, but he says evil wins every time, and he's not far from the truth. Evil does win by its own definition, but in the Bible it says, and don't quote me, but somewhere in the Bible it says, we can lead people from wickedness out of evil. We can we can bring them to salvation, but if they choose to go back, there's not much that we can do. But that does not mean that we should stop doing or living like Jesus lived his life, or doing God's work, or fulfilling God's purpose for us. And that's, hmm, I think that the things that I say, are they clean cut? Am I clean cut? Am I buttoned up, tied up, stuck, suit tie? You know, I once saw this guy come out this building, and he had this, I don't want to say it was a suitcase, kind of like a small brief, and even then, it was like a man bag. And I would rather be me. I can get a cardboard box and make my own briefcase. And that is a man that, for me, I would rather be known as that man, the man that built his own briefcase out of cardboard and some paint, than a man that spent $2,000 on a briefcase. A man that, just because he has a fancy briefcase, thinks he can win the world's largest case. You know, I have done so much with so little, and I know it's because God, I say all the time that I know God, He put angels in my life. I know that. And it's strange that I say this now, because I'm realizing, like, I all the time, in church, sometimes in the songs they reference angels, or even there's like the angel Moroni. But so oftentimes in church, there's always talks about different characters and stuff. And maybe that's why I like Spanish church more than I like other services, because I feel that the closer you get to the original language human of humanity, the more things hit. You know, I for me, I have read the original Greek text of so many different versions or religious. versions and stories. And when I read the Greek text, it really, to me, it really does reflect accurately as to how events took place, as opposed to like if you read King James version. And for me, that it really puts America into shape for me. Like when I think of America, a lot of modern day culture, like if you think about Christians and modern day churches and everything that these modern day churches, even as old school as they have these belief systems, that really is the root of America, why America was formed. And you have to really, the English language has some limitations, but the root of the English language, if you go to the original Greek text and not these so many different translations in the lexicon and all this stuff, but if you go to the original Greek text and the original, and maybe I'll pull up one of the stories that I've looked into, and I think one of the Greek texts that I looked at or read was when Jesus was crucified. And it really does show me, you know, I don't want to sound awful, but it is true to me that it shows me when I read the Greek text, it shows me how much is left out of like all of these translations. Like each word of when Jesus was crucified in the Greek text, it really shows how he embraced and how he really understood the people he was crucified with and what took place when he was on the cross. And so often, modern day Christians really reflect on like Mary or like when he was in the tomb and he was resurrected or like the walk, but they really don't focus on those moments when he was crucified. He was up there already bleeding. And for me, when I read that text, I really started to see, one, obviously I noted like how much is left out. When you read the original Greek text and you see, wow, like all this is left out. Like you've never really understood in depth what was really going on with Jesus at the cross. There's so many like dramatic sermons and stuff like that, but if you read the original text of how it is written, for me, I was like, one, a lot of things were left out, but two, I started to really see like, you know, Jesus had so many followers, and not even just the people in his inner circle, but he had interactions with so many people. He healed so many people. He saved so many people. Along his journeys, he interacted with so many people. And out of all of those hundreds, thousands, all of those people, none of those people were with him crucified, alongside him when he was being crucified. But he was among what society deemed like the worst of the worst: criminal, thieves, murderers. He was crucified alongside these people, and these people, they had an interaction with Jesus that was like so much more impactful than the relationships. I'm not saying that, obviously Paul was like screaming diversity and inclusion before it was even a thing. Paul suffered so much, and even amongst Jesus' followers, Paul knew that it was wrong for them to try to perpetrate Jesus' teachings, and he said that Everyone should know Jesus' teachings, regardless of what tongue they're speaking it in, regardless of what language they are teaching it in, and that it shouldn't be seen as wrong or evil or bad to teach other tribes or other regions Jesus' teachings, which ultimately, because of Paul, is that the case. But what I'm saying is, you know, all of these followers he had, and none of them had the foresight or saw that Jesus was already telling them, "You're going to deny me." They doubted, but it was so strange how, and you guys do your own research, but that's just how I've really been. I've been unashamed to be me, and I just keep doing what I'm doing. I do these videos for me. I don't do them for anybody else. I'm taking care of myself. That's all I can do. And stay tuned. See what comes of all this. Peace out.